At the top of her mountain, there was a wall made of 3 sides. And here Sapna would come when she wanted to be alone with her thoughts and alone with her world. From here, she'd watch the seasons come and go, watch the mangoes ripen in the summer sun, watch the monkeys play amongst the treetops high above her head, and to feel the cool breeze. Here was her place, the one place where there was always a cool wind within the hottest of days. And here she was at one with herself and with her world too. She could see the twisting curves of the Yamuna far below her and the villages that clung to the valleys far, far away. Here she could see the white temples that stood out like beacons along the valley, where the melas were held and the marriages were made. Here she could see all her world. And here she could think. If no one could answer her questions, then perhaps she could. She'd listened enough with her ears that were open, and now was the chance to use what she had heard, what she had been taught, what she believed, to do what she knew was right. But what? What could she do? She was just one girl, one child, one voice. And then she knew the answer. Perhaps the ground had had too many stones. Perhaps the man had felt too much of the sun's bite. But whatever the reason, he didn't sleep well. And he was awake before the sun had risen, before it had even begun to become light. He brushed the sleep and dirt from his eyes and drank deeply from his water flask. Today he would do better. Today he would drive harder and faster than before. Today he would become rich. And with the rupee signs lighting his eyes, he once again summoned the yellow monster to life, and it snarled with anticipation of the road ahead. The driver tapped the gauges and flicked the switches. Yes, today was gonna be a good day. The lights on the yellow bulldozer flickered to life and lit the way ahead. He could see clearly despite the darkness. The tiny winding path was his goal. It had been walked upon by humans and goats, buffalo and cows for hundreds of years, and soon it would be no more. Soon it would be a road, just like they had planned, just like they had decided, just like they had wanted it to be. And with a sickening judder, the blade at the front of the bulldozer gouged huge lumps of rock and soil from the side of the path. For thousands of years the mountain had stood there, and now it was becoming remade, shaped and flattened. With a grunt and a huge crack, a mighty tree was uprooted and pushed off the edge of the mountain and sent tumbling down into the valley below, its branches flailing like the lost soul flung overboard at sea. And in the blinking of an eye, it was gone. And another, and another, and another. Astride his yellow metal monster, the man smiled. Each roar of the engine, each snapping of a mighty tree trunk, each scraping of an ancient boulder meant that he was closer to his goal and closer to his fortune. And then silence. Where once there had been noise, now there was calm. Well, mostly calm. The man leapt off the top of the yellow monster and stared at the beast. And then he jumped back on and flicked the switches and tapped the dials. But this time, nothing. The beast was silent. He lifted the metal monster's yellow hood and stared deep within it. He poked wires and touched pipes, shook cables and rattled boxes. Nothing. The searing heat burnt down upon the man's head as he scratched his hair and furrowed his brow, mystified as to what had taken place. What had happened? What had gone wrong? Why was his monster silent? And he looked beneath and looked behind, checked the fuel and twisted the switches. He looked under the engine cover again, as for any clue to how he could bring the beast back to life. But he found nothing. Nothing at all. And then, in pure frustration, he kicked its metal tracks and cursed his luck. Now he could get nothing done. Nothing could be achieved. Why? 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 Far away, on the other side of the mountain, Kuldeep took his hand away from his heart and slowly opened his eyes. His work had been done. The playground was alive with voices. Even the boys had stopped playing chase and were gathered in groups, animated in both discussion and thought. The teachers huddled together beneath the one tree that cast a shadow in the playground, and they looked concerned. There was clearly much occupying their minds. They had heard that the machine was coming, heard of what it had done and what it could do. They'd been told of the road and the destruction of the houses, and they knew that it would soon be their turn. Soon it would be their houses, their homes, their village. They heard about its ferocious power, the fearful sounds and the belching smoke. They heard about the yellow metal monster, and they were scared. Auntie brought the children together, and her teachers too. She said that she had heard the news also. She told the children that they should go home to be with their families and that she would see everyone when the road was finished. She said that she would see them the day after tomorrow, because by then the machine would be gone and the road would be finished. Sapna walked home that afternoon. She walked with her brother. And as she went around a bend in the road, she looked below her and saw the village of Sanji. She saw the road that curled its way into the heart of the village, around the edges of the rocky outcrops, and saw her friends walking their way back home along the same road. From high above, she waved at them, and they waved back. This road had been good. It had been enough for the needs of Sanji, enough to help the village, enough to help carry the heavy bags of rice and grain to the markets of Missouri, and for the jeeps and the motorbikes too. It was what the village had needed, enough for its needs. Still further along the road, Kuldeep stopped her and made her turn. From here, she could see the whole wide valley. She could see the endless fields and the high terraces. She could see the trees gathered together here, gathered together there. She could see the goat tracks as they crisscrossed the mountain sides, and the tiny cowsheds half hidden amidst the fields and the trees. Here she could see for miles. And then she saw it. Like a scar across the landscape, she saw the new road that had been dug. It was like a freshly cut wound in the side of a great animal, a wound that was now oozing fresh brown blood, the brown soil of the earth through the green fields above. Kuldeep then pointed to a yellow shape at the head of this wound, the metal monster. And there it was, still and shining in the late sun of the day. And then Sapna frowned. Why was it still? Why was it not moving? And she looked quizzically at her brother. And without saying a word, Kuldeep placed his hand over his heart, looked at his sister, and gently smiled.
Be the change that you want to see in the world, just like Gandhi. Be the change that you want to see in the world, just like Gandhi. Be the change that you want to see